What do you do when, in your later years, there's no one left by your side? Hello, and welcome to Candle of Wisdom. Today, I invite you to listen to a deeply personal story, one that speaks to the quiet courage it takes to keep living fully, even when faced with loneliness and loss in the later stages of life. This is the story of Mark Thompson, a 62-year-old man navigating the complex realities of aging alone. From an unexpected early retirement and the death of his beloved wife to feeling distanced from his grown children, Mark found himself standing at a crossroads, a time of uncertainty, reflection, and ultimately, renewal. His journey reveals how resilience and emotional strength can still be found when we choose to embrace the life that remains. My name is Mark Thompson, and I turned 62 this year. I spent most of my career working for a public service agency here in the United States. When the department restructured, I was offered early retirement. It wasn't what I had planned, but I had lived modestly, and fortunately, I had enough savings to get by. I wasn't rich, far from it, but I told myself I'd be fine. For a time, I believed that. Years ago, my home was filled with laughter and warmth. My wife, Anne, and our 2 children, Adam and Eva, made the house feel alive. But time passed, and things changed. Both kids married and moved away. Adam now lives 2 hours north with his wife, and Eva settled in another state with her husband. And a few years ago, Anne passed away after a long illness. Just like that, the house that had once been full of life became still. Too still. One evening, I was sitting on the sofa in the living room, and the silence of the house felt like it was pressing in on me. That's when my phone rang. It was Adam. He sounded a bit rushed, like he had meant to call for days, but was only now finding the time. "Hey, Dad, are you home alone tonight? I wanted to come by with Kate, but something came up at work. I don't think we can make it." A pang of disappointment hit me, but I tried to take it in stride. Adam has his own responsibilities, his own family and career. I didn't want to weigh him down with my feelings, so I replied, "It's fine, son. Don't worry about me. I'm doing okay on my own." But when the call ended, I sat in silence, letting out a long, tired sigh. The truth was hard to admit, even to myself. The world felt like it was moving on without me. Not so long ago, I had a job to go to, people who needed me, a life that was filled with purpose. Now, retired and alone, all I had were my thoughts and the emptiness left behind. The next day, my neighbor Mr. Lewis dropped by. He's around my age, friendly, always up for a chat. As we stood in the yard talking, he asked me, "Mark, you don't have anyone else living here with you, do you?" I just shook my head and stayed quiet. He nodded slowly. "I'm in the same boat. My wife passed, and my kids. Well, they've got their own busy lives. I know that feeling. The loneliness that starts to creep in." Something about hearing him say it out loud struck a chord. It hurt, like pressing on a bruise, but it also brought a strange kind of comfort. I wasn't the only one feeling this way. So many older adults live with the same silent ache. Then Mr. Lewis looked me straight in the eye and said something that lingered in my mind for days. "We're at the age where we've got to think ahead. If the day comes when it really is just you, alone in this big house, what will you do?" His question landed like a stone in my chest. What would I do? I started picturing what that future might look like. No one to check in on me. No one to talk to if I got sick or needed help. That question haunted me, echoing through quiet days and long nights. Soon after, my daughter Eva paid me a short visit, bringing along my little granddaughter. hoping for a nice long chat. I even cooked a few of Eva's childhood favorites. But the moment she stepped through the door, she said, "Dad, I only have a bit of time. I still have to go pick up Ryan later. Work's been crazy." I could see the worry lines on her face. She was stressed, trying to juggle her job and her family responsibilities. Of course, I wanted more than just 15 rushed minutes, but all I could say was, "That's fine, honey. I'm doing all right." She ate a few quick bites of my cooking, gathered her daughter, and left, reminding me to take care. Standing by the window, I watched them disappear down the street, feeling hollow. That night, I lay awake in bed. My mind wandered back to Mr. Lewis's words, the idea of living on my own for the rest of my life. I thought, I can't just drift like this. I need a plan. A few days later, I suggested that Mr. Lewis and I take a stroll in the local park. We sat on a bench, watching people pass by. I turned to him and said, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said the other day. If we really end up alone in our old age, how do we manage?" He nodded. "I've been thinking too. There are a few things we'd better prepare. First off, finances. We need to make sure we have enough savings to cover our own needs, bills, groceries, medical expenses, so we're not caught off guard." I completely agreed. Money can't buy happiness, but if you haven't secured the basics, being old and alone can become unbearably difficult. So I spent a few days going through my finances, estimating what I might need in the coming years, including possible medical bills. I realized that thorough planning was crucial. Mr. Lewis continued, "Also, we can't rely on our kids forever. They have their own lives, and sometimes they live too far away to help us at a moment's notice. We have to stay as active as possible, exercise, sign up for group activities, avoid isolating ourselves at home." It occurred to me then that I'd essentially walled myself off after retirement. I watched TV, stared at the empty walls, and rarely participated in anything beyond my front door. Loneliness was creeping in, both physically and mentally. Realizing this, I decided to change. Every morning, I started going to the park to jog, or at least do some gentle stretches. In the evenings, I visited the community center to play chess or board games with fellow retirees. Gradually, I made new friends, and my life began to expand. Still, there were nights when the silence closed in on me, especially as I lay in bed gazing up at the ceiling. I couldn't help wondering what would happen if I fell seriously ill. Who would look after me? Those thoughts kept me tossing and turning until one day a new idea came to mind: finding a companion in my later years. The thought itself made me feel conflicted. My wife had only passed away a few years ago. I worried I might be betraying her memory. But as time wore on, the ache of loneliness grew more intense. Eventually, I opened up to Mr. Lewis about it. He listened intently and said, "Mark, there's no shame in wanting companionship at our age. It's not about finding someone to serve you or do chores. It's about having someone to share stories with, to keep the loneliness at bay." His words alleviated my guilt. Wanting a partner wasn't about disrespecting my late wife's memory. It was simply about continuing to live and love. During one of my evening activities at the community center, I met Linda Brown, a warm, friendly woman around my age. Like me, she lived alone because her children had moved to different states for work. She was lively, loved going on day trips, and seemed to savor life. We hit it off, exchanging phone numbers and soon chatting regularly. Before long, we found ourselves grocery shopping together, trying out new recipes and taking morning walks. Her presence filled my house with a brightness I thought I'd lost forever. As time passed, Linda moved in with me. We didn't feel the need to make it official through marriage. Day-to-day life was more or less as it would be for any affectionate couple. Our evenings were spent talking, watching the news, or just discussing the trivial details of the day. One day, I came down with a nasty fever. Linda sprang into action, making sure I took the right medications, gently wiping my forehead with a cool cloth, even phoning my son Adam to ask him to help take me to a doctor. When Adam arrived, he was startled by how devoted Linda was, but he quickly adjusted. "Dad," he said, "why didn't you call me sooner? If you're sick, you should let me know." I managed a tired laugh. "Son, I didn't want to trouble you, and Linda's been a wonderful help." Adam nodded, and I could sense his appreciation. At the hospital, the doctor reassured me that I only needed rest. Adam insisted I come stay with him until I recovered, but I declined. I felt more comfortable at home, and Linda knew my routine better than anyone. This tiny episode underscored how precious it was to have someone by my side, someone who cared about how I was doing day in and day out. Our quiet, steadfast companionship blossomed. Yes, it was different from the passionate romance of young couples, but it felt steady, a gentle presence that warded off the shadows of loneliness. I felt like I'd finally found some peace in my later years. But life never goes exactly as planned. One afternoon, Linda's son, who lived a couple of states away, called to say he was getting married and dearly hoped Linda would move in with him to help settle things before the wedding. Linda's eyes shone with worry. She knew I depended on her companionship, yet she also felt she should be present for her child's major life event. Trying to be strong, I said, "Linda, this is wonderful news. He's your son, and family is important. You should go." She paused, tears shining in her eyes. "I'm so used to this place now, and I'm not sure I'll be much help there. But maybe I should be with my children." I forced a sad smile. "They need you, Linda. That's a mother's duty, and I'll be all right." I lied. Of course, I wasn't all right. When she finally left a few days later, I drove her to the bus station. Standing there, I watched her step up into the bus, my heart feeling like a stone had lodged itself inside. When the bus pulled away, I just stood, rooted to the spot. Once again, I faced a house that felt too big, too silent. I tried to revert to my old routines, chatting with neighbors, visiting the community center, and occasionally calling my kids. But the warmth Linda had brought was gone, replaced by a heavier loneliness than before. My son Adam and daughter Eva phoned me regularly, noticing that I sounded down. Yet they lived too far to be at my side consistently, and I couldn't expect them to drop their own obligations just to take care of me. A few months later, I heard some people at the community center talking about assisted living facilities, places designed for older adults with medical staff, group activities, and peers. The thought popped into my head. Maybe I should research that option. One phone call later, Adam sounded concerned. "Dad, do you really want to move into a senior living place? Won't it be depressing?" I took a deep breath. "Son, it's not about it being depressing or not. I just need a place that's stable, where I don't have to worry about being on my own if something happens. You and Eva can't always be here. At least if I'm in a place with on-site care and friends my age, I won't have to wait alone if I'm sick or need help." After some hesitation, Adam said he'd talk to Eva. A few days later, the two of them came over and sat down with me. Eva looked worried. "Dad, we understand living alone is tough, but are you sure a senior community is right for you?" I gently explained, "I've thought about it for a while. I need a place where I can be around others in similar situations. I appreciate how much you both want to help, but I can't rely on you all the time. You have jobs, children, and your own lives." They looked at each other, then nodded. Adam said, "We support you, Dad. We'll visit often." Shortly thereafter, I moved to a peaceful, assisted living home in the suburbs. It had a garden, recreation rooms, and a group of friendly seniors who became my neighbors. A resident named Mr. Vernon took me under his wing on my very first day, giving me a quick tour and introducing me to a few folks who liked chess just as much as I did. That first night, lying in my new bed, I stared out the window at the moonlit sky and felt a sense of relief. Yes, this place was unfamiliar, but at least I wasn't entirely alone. There were people around, staff members watching out for us, and new friends willing to chat or share a cup of coffee. Over the next 6 months, I adapted. I had routine meals in the dining hall, joined a Tai Chi group in the mornings, and started playing board games again with a few friends every afternoon. Adam and Ava would drop by sometimes, bringing their kids. I always tried to reassure them I was settling in well, and in truth, I began to feel a certain measure of contentment. Then, one afternoon, while I was basking in the warm sunshine in the courtyard, my phone rang. It was Adam, his voice tight with worry. "Dad, Linda's been in a car accident. She's in the ICU, and it's not looking good." My heart pounded, the phone slipping almost out of my hand. "Are you sure? Where is she now?" He told me which hospital and asked if I wanted him to pick me up. The drive to the hospital was a blur. I kept recalling the day Linda left, how I had tried to be brave, how we had promised to stay in touch. I never imagined it would end up like this. When we arrived, Adam and Eva were already in the waiting area, looking worried. Adam came over. "Dad, the doctors are still in there working on her. It doesn't look promising." I stared at the red emergency light above the doors to the operating room, my heart pounding in my ears. I prayed silently, clinging to the hope that Linda's strong spirit would pull her through. The minutes dragged on like hours until a tired-looking doctor finally emerged. We rushed up to him, and I stammered, "How is she?" He shook his head, explaining that the injuries were severe, and Linda's age made surgery and recovery more complicated. "I'm sorry," he said gently. "You should prepare for the worst." I felt my knees buckle. Adam helped me into a chair. My mind went blank with disbelief. The doors swung open again, and a gurney rolled out. Linda, lying motionless with an oxygen mask pale as a sheet. My eyes filled with tears as I hurried to her side. Linda, it's me, Mark. Can you hear me?" She opened her eyes slightly. Her breathing was shallow, and she seemed unable to speak. I grasped her hand. It felt cold, fragile. "Hang in there, okay? Remember, we were going to spend our golden years together. You can't leave me, Linda." A single tear slid down her cheek, and her lips moved, though no sound came out, yet I could tell she recognized me. In that moment, the lump in my throat was too big to swallow. I pleaded silently for her to stay. Even Adam and Eva stood by, tears in their eyes, though they knew words were of no use. Late that night, Linda's condition took a turn for the worse. The doctor told us that she was slipping away. I couldn't bring myself to leave her bedside, afraid that the moment I closed my eyes, she'd be gone. But Linda seemed to sense me there. Her eyelids fluttered once more, and she managed to raise her hand just enough to place it in mine. I squeezed it, feeling my tears land on her wrist. She formed a single sentence in a voice so faint I almost imagined it. "Mark, live well." Then her hand went limp and her eyes closed for the last time. I cried out, begging her to come back, but all I heard was the sound of the monitors going flat. That crushing heartbreak felt like the world had collapsed around me. In my 62 years, I'd lost dear ones before, but this was different. Perhaps because Linda was my last line of defense against loneliness. Now, she was gone. The days and weeks after that blurred together. I returned to the assisted living home, but everything seemed bleak. My new friends tried to console me. Adam and Ava visited more frequently, even bringing the grandkids, hoping to cheer me up. I appreciated their kindness, but the numbness inside me just wouldn't lift. Late at night, I'd lie awake remembering Linda's voice, her smile, the way she moved about the house. I'd recall how she had gently wiped my forehead when I was sick. Now, all of that was just a memory. One morning, I saw a new resident at the facility, an older gentleman who looked anxious, lost, and sad. He reminded me of myself when I first arrived, so I patted him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, care to take a walk around the courtyard with me?" He gave a silent nod, as if quietly thankful for even the smallest gesture of companionship. We walked side by side without saying a word, bound by a shared understanding. Aging can be isolating. Losing loved ones leaves deep scars. But sometimes, just having someone nearby, a simple, kind presence, can make the burden feel lighter. That evening, back in my room, I lay down, and Linda's face came to mind. Her memory didn't bring the same sharp ache it once did. The sorrow was still there, but beside it now was something gentler. Gratitude. Gratitude for the time we shared. Though she was no longer with me, her kindness and love lived on in my heart. Over the following days, a sense of purpose began to return. One morning, I stepped outside and let the early sunlight touch my face. I thought of Linda's words about cherishing each moment, nurturing every relationship, and accepting the impermanence of life. People leave us, yes, but their influence lingers, shaping how we move forward. I've come to understand that growing older isn't just about experiencing loss. It's about gaining perspective. You begin to see how precious every bond is, whether it's with family, friends, or companions met later in life. Time may move faster now, but that doesn't mean it's too late to live meaningfully, to seek connection, or to find peace. Haruki Murakami once wrote that aging doesn't happen slowly. It happens in sudden leaps. One day, you wake up and realize a year has passed. You catch your reflection and see that your youth has quietly slipped away. People start calling you sir or ma'am, and you understand finally that you're no longer young. You watch your parents grow frail or say goodbye to them entirely, and in their absence, you begin to accept your own aging. You become more selective with your words, not because you have less to say, but because you've learned how rare it is to be truly heard. Unexpected challenges appear. Health concerns, financial strain, adult children too preoccupied to visit often, and you realize that, despite once having a wide social circle, genuine empathy is a rare gift. Yet in the stillness of night, alone with your thoughts, you may find something surprising. Peace. If you've made peace with yourself, if you've accepted your journey, you'll see that your worth was never tied to external validation. You'll come to understand that humility, not pride, is what brings real serenity in old age. Love, too, changes. In your younger years, you may have believed in sweeping, eternal romance. But as time goes on, you learn that some relationships fade. Not all loves are meant to last forever. People evolve. You evolve. What matters is the imprint those connections leave behind, the memories that helped shape who you are. Yes, disappointments gather with age, but so do quiet blessings. You begin to let go of unrealistic expectations, and in doing so, you release yourself from constant disappointment. What some may call cynicism might actually be wisdom, the ability to hold both hope and realism in balance. Most importantly, you come to see that the one person you can truly rely on, in the end, is yourself. If you can stay grounded, move through grief, and allow yourself to heal, you'll find a strength no one can take from you. So here's what I want to leave you with. If you're growing older alone, there are ways to prepare. Build a strong financial foundation. Preserve your independence where you can. Feed your spirit with hobbies, friendships, and, if your heart allows, a new companion who might bring warmth into your life, even for just a season. Cherish those who genuinely care for you. And don't hesitate to seek out spaces that support you, whether that's an assisted living home, your children's household, or the company of lifelong friends. There is no single right way to age, only the way that gives you peace, dignity, and companionship. And when night comes, and that familiar ache of absence returns, remind yourself, you carry those you've lost in your heart. The love, the moments, the meaning, they were real. They mattered, and nothing can take that away. Thank you for being here and supporting Candle of Wisdom. If Mark Thompson's story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an update. Take care, hold your loved ones close, and until next time, be kind to yourself and others.